What is it like to die? Dr. Kenneth Ring has spent the last 5 years interviewing hundreds of people who have nearly died. In this program, he has chosen 4 people who are representative of those he has interviewed to describe their experiences and how it has affected their lives. Their reports are giving us a new view of death.
And I was in a car accident and thrown out. Was in severe pain. I had a fractured clavicle and lacerations all over my body, and I had thought that I had broken my jaw. I had tremendous pain in my jaw, and I went unconscious.
Basically, the truck did fall on me, and the frame of the truck came across my chest so that it immediately pushed all the air out of me.
The day they sent me home from the hospital, they graciously gave me a lot of medication, so I'd have a comfortable ride home and I'd be fine when I got there. And the result was that it was too much for me, and when I got home, I collapsed.
I began to hemorrhage internally. The stitches that were inside my body, evidently the wound did not heal, and I lost quite a bit of blood.
The subjects were asked to describe their near-death experiences.
The thing that amazed me was that as the pain became extremely severe, my breathing became far more shallow. And as I exhaled, I became very numb. And the more numb I became, I sort of just, without realizing it, zoomed out of my body like in a funnel fashion and just hovered over it. And I wasn't aware that I had left my body at that time. I was only aware that I wasn't in pain and that something was different. And then I became very familiar with my surroundings and space and realized that I was separated, but still did not know exactly how, until I got high enough up where I saw a bald-headed man put a blanket on my body. And the most interesting thing at that moment was when I realized I was out of my body and that I was no longer Vita. I did not have a gender whatsoever. There wasn't a back, front, or anything. I was shapeless, odorless, colorless, just something like an invisible gas of some sort. And I just experimented with the air around me. I was the atmosphere. And the higher up I went, the more I became part of the air. An interesting thing was that my hearing during this escalation was extremely acute, as though I was next to anybody who was nearby. When the police came, I could hear them as accurately as though I was standing right by them. When they were trying to shake me, on the ground, as though I was back in my body again.
And I did. It was that. And you become it. I could say that I was peace. I was love. I was the brightness. It was part of me. I had no recollection of anything, anything biological. It's not like you could see something. because your sight is biological, it's necessary here. Hearing is necessary here. Speech is necessary here. It's not there. You just know. You're all-knowing. Everything is a part of you, and it's just so beautiful. It was eternity. It's like I was always there, and I will always be there. That my existence on earth was just a very brief instant. It's a hard concept to understand, eternity, because when you compare it to time, time requires progression. Things, a sequence of things follow each other. This is all at once, everything. There's no passing from one thing to another. I'd like to call it a different dimension, but can't really call it that, because that could be defined, and there are different dimensions. They have beginnings and ends, and so that doesn't fit.
At the point that actually happened, I was screaming and I was vomiting at the same time, and I felt myself getting ready to pass out. And I was conscious of my two sons were standing in the doorway, and I was looking at my husband, and next thing I know, I was looking down at my husband. And it was unclear at first. I said, I'm looking at myself. And I looked down at the bedroom scene, and all of a sudden I said, my God, I'm dead. And the only way I can describe my immediate feeling was, if you could describe or see or feel a smile or a complete contentment or happiness, that was it. I seen myself, my physical body was still alive, and I was still screaming.
Could you see yourself clearly?
Yes, very clearly. And I could see the backs of my husband's head and my mother's, and I could see my sons. I had a very good, clear vision, but I had no feeling towards these people. If anything, I was looking down in amusement, because I still had this smiley feeling. And I had no attachment, no feeling. It was like I was looking at that glass of water. I mean, I have no attachment to that glass of water. That's how I was viewing myself.
Just looking as a spectator, Mike.
Exactly. And I felt that I was in a vacuum. The reason I say that is because I could hear nothing, but yet I heard the vacuum. Not a noise of a vacuum cleaner, but I heard the quietness. And with that, it was a peacefulness. I wasn't a body. I wasn't in a body form. If anything, I think I may have had a head or a center, and the rest of me was just something very loose.
Did you feel like you were yourself? It was you that this was happening
I wasn't
to?
my body, I was my mind. I say I was my spirit. And contentment, happiness, it was the most wonderful time in my life. It was peaceful, quiet. It was magnificent. It's hard to explain because I feel it wasn't exactly worldly. So how can I use worldly words to explain it to you? All I can say is it was a fantastic experience. So, and I was conscious of being maybe inches from the ceiling. I could feel the closeness of the ceiling.
Were you aware of any other persons or presences with you at that time, or did you feel that you were alone in that space?
I was alone, but I wasn't alone. There again, I felt the closeness or the protection of this vacuum that I was in. It was like, it's really hard to explain. It's like when you're real upset and you're a little girl and your mother hugs you. You have that, everything's going to be okay now because Mommy's hugging me. Well, I didn't feel like somebody was right there, but I had that wonderful protective feeling of the vacuum, which kind of made me feel that I wasn't alone.
The next thing that I experienced or realized that I was in this huge vastness of just nothing, just darkness. I might add in here, during this time, the pressure and the pain that you experienced during the accident was gone. You were relieved of all that. The one sensation that you're very aware of is your eyesight, or that you can see. You you then see that this area that you're in, that you're passing through, takes the shape of a tunnel. And dimension-wise, it was vast. It was anywhere from 1,000 feet to 1,000 miles wide. And it was definitely to infinity. And before you is this just magnificent, beautiful, bright white light. You are confronted by true, pure love. In my case, since I've talked to other people, I realize that they necessarily were not given a choice. In my case, at that moment, I was aware that I could immediately choose to leave and return to reality or my body. Or I could have the choice of moving forward or desiring to enter into or become part, rather emotional, become part of this light. And the next moments, I did desire to become part of this light, including considering my life in reality, the love that I have for my wife and children, for the people around me, the wonderful things that I've been able to do in my life. I've had a really exciting and wonderful life prior to this experience, and the wonderful things that I can continue to do, helping the people around me, making love to my children and my wife and close friends and so on. But it was so much more desirable. This was perfection. This was heaven or God. And it is now confusing to me. I don't recall making a specific choice. I recall desiring to enter this light, and I did in fact make a forward motion. Excuse me. The return trip was extremely vivid, and it was everything in reverse.
You went back through the tunnel,
right,
and so forth?
Back through the tunnel and to reality, and upon reaching the beginning of the tunnel at the reality point, I woke up or came to or entered my body with just a huge bang, with a jolt similar to an electric shock, or just, bang like that.
The minute I decided that I had to come back, the light never came back, that beautiful light. I just plopped into my body. I don't even remember the coming down. I just was in, and I woke up in such unbelievable pain. It was excruciating. I just was overwhelming.
Did you remember your experience at the time that you came back?
Yes, I did, very vividly, but I did not speak of it for a very long time, very selectively. My family did not know about it for many, many years.
It was at least 6 months after the incident that I could even speak to my wife about it. It was such an emotional, beautiful, swelling feeling inside that every time I tried to express it, I think I would just explode. I would break down and cry. And she, for the longest time couldn't figure out what was wrong with me.
Well, she must have wondered a lot then about how you were dealing with this episode, because she, as you say, is a nurse and knew the seriousness of your condition, and I guess also knew that you had, I gather this is the case, that you had clinically died.
Yes, my heart stopped. I stopped breathing. I guess I was out about a minute, and they brought me back. The minute I came back, the pain returned immediately, the fear. I mean, I just...
all the human emotions.
Yes, everything human came back. And I remember being very angry. They brought me back. And my wife ended up asking me a while later, you seemed angry, how come? And I just couldn't tell her. That was probably the most frustrating 6 months of my existence. After experiencing perfection and something so beautiful, I wanted to hold on to it. Didn't want to let it go. And it wasn't easy. After I had recovered the second time and went home, everything just seemed to change. It was almost like I was starting my life all over again. I was a baby. I hadn't made the mistakes that I had made in my life, and things weren't messed up or whatever. And I can recall, in my attempt to hold on to this feeling and to hold on to this peace, I began to bump into earthly things, you know, that of course aren't going to escape from you. You know, they're there. My first frustrating experience was with the television. I couldn't watch television. There would be a a commercial, a cosmetic commercial. I couldn't. I'd have to turn it off because it was something false. It was unnecessary. It was fake. It just didn't belong. You know, it was insignificant. Any type of violence, if there was even a Western, an old Western movie, I'd have to turn it off because to me that was total ignorance. There was just no reason on earth to show people killing people. You know. That was frustrating, especially when the family's sitting down trying to watch television and Dad gets up and turns it off all the time. You know. So I finally just learned to go to my room. It got to the point where I had a great deal of time readjusting. And it was at that time, I have a very, very close friend who was a priest, we call him Father Bob, who sat down with me a few times and very understanding. Here's a man that I know did not experience what I did, but he seemed to know. He knew what I was talking about. Very understanding. Perhaps the most important thing he did for me was to help me to readjust, to accept life, to understand that you are living, that, you know, that is there, it will come again, and that there is much more here, and that I was here for a reason. And it did help, you know. I'm back to watching television. I even like the boxing matches. Come a long way.
I could stand the commercials too.
Right.
We just found out 3 years ago my husband is dying of cancer. Now he's only 34 years old and he has cancer of the pancreas, liver, and now bone cancer. And what has happened here with me is, being so young, of course an older person you expect to die, you expect me to have a heart attack or die of cancer, but not a healthy, very healthy 34-year-old man. And I always wondered, I wonder why this happened to me, and you know, what am I going to get out of it? A very practical person. Now I know, because the strength that it has given me is in turn allowing me to give my husband strength to die. Mm-hmm. We've talked about it hours on end. I know that I've given him peace of mind to the point he didn't actually experience it, so he can't say, okay, great, come on, death. But he can appreciate it. It calms him down a little bit, and certainly he feels better that I feel calmer about it.
Death is a beginning, Ken. It's beautiful. There's the light. It's love. It's more beautiful. It's, if you really love somebody, you've got to be happy for where they're going. It's an adventure, and they're not alone. See, we're afraid of somebody being alone, but they're not alone. Beyond.
And not only not alone, but it seems like they're surrounded by this sort of atmosphere of love that it's very difficult to leave once you encounter it, isn't it?
It's beautiful. It is just as though, you know, you're being held in a cradle of love and just being carried through the most beautiful, magical story God could ever create. And it's, I just can't explain it. It's marvelous.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Ken.